this must be the beginning of a different trajectory for this country. A lean cabinet must be a priority. We hope this will be the beginning of the abolition of ministries that can be government departments. As the Socialist Party, we have stated that this country can be run effectively and efficiently by reducing the number of cabinet ministers from 22 to 10. We promise to be a loyal opposition party. We will provide very strong checks and balances. It won't be a one-party state. But we do recognize that the journey to recovery will not be easy. Our voice will be heard loud and clear on all important national issues. For us, to see wrong things being committed and not to speak will be a great betrayal to the Zambian people. Losing an election will not shut us up, nor temper our resolve to call out the wrongs in our society. And for the sake of the Zambian people, we implore you to prove to us that you and the PF are not Siamese twins.
Big hour right here on KBN TV, the finest television. Remember, we are live on the Topstar Decoder channel 102, and you can also visit our Facebook page KBN TV Zambia, and you can as well subscribe to our YouTube channel. I am your host Tapelo Joe Smarter. Tonight we do a postmortem of the 2021 general elections that saw the UPND president, who has become the Republican president, His Excellency Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, being sworn in as the 7th Republican president of Zambia. To discuss these issues, we have on set Mr. Melvin Chisanga, a governance expert, but he is or was also in the UPND campaign committee. He was a member, and we are here to find out the pronouncements that the UPND made during their campaigns. Are they going to fulfill their campaign promises? Are these pronouncements that were made by the Republican president in his speech, first speech to the press, going to materialize? His speech yesterday, can it be actualized? We look at this on the big hour tonight. Mr. Tsanga, good to see you and welcome.
Thank you so much, Tapelo, and it's a pleasure to be back at KBN.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Tsanga, before we delve into the nitty-gritties of our discussion, let me find out from you. You are still a campaign team member. Of course, between you and me, I know you as a governance expert. But you are still saying you're a campaign team member. Does this mean the UPND is still campaigning even after forming government?
Not quite still campaigning, but then, as you may know, when these committees are set, yeah, there comes a time when they are disbanded. So for us in the UPND, I still await that instruction from my chairman, Mr. Bernard Mpundu, who was the chairman of the presidential campaign team,
Okay.
to tell us to put down our, our tools
Okay.
of engagement, because we had a rigorous campaign period, which of course materialized into what we are seeing today, the new dawn. And the new dawn is indeed here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talking about the new dawn, you were here prior to the 2021 elections, and you made quite a peculiar pronouncement, and I'm tempted to call you a prophet, because what you pronounced here on this set has indeed come true. You said the next time I'm going to host you, you will be forming government as the UPND. How does that make you feel?
Well, it makes me feel good, but at the same time, thank you for the flattery. I sounded like a prophet. But I'll tell you one thing. The way things were going in this country under the PF regime, it was very easy for anyone to predict where they were headed to. Okay? Yes, if you want to talk about prophecy, then you should see one of my articles that I wrote on the 24th like yesterday, but in 2020, okay, which I titled PF, a looting club that is not going to last beyond August 2021.
I'm very interested because I read your article and you managed to share it on your Facebook page, of course. Let me find out, why were you calling the PF, the outgoing regime, or the PF in opposition now, a looting club?
Well, if you read my article, I actually, in my discourse, made it very clear, looking at the style of governance of the previous regime. It was very much centered around what each individual, okay, in that particular grouping of theirs, which of course a very small group, but then able to wreak that level of havoc that we saw, okay, it was very much about what each one of them could go home with, okay. It wasn't about the people of Zambia, because for us in the UPND, as you have heard the president, Mr. Hagende Ijirema, on several fora, he has made the pronouncement to say, we are here for service, okay. We seek public office for service and not for personal gain. So the PF were doing exactly the opposite of that. And then even in the manner that they were doing it, okay, it was as if Zambia was not going to go beyond 2021. It was like it was the end of the world. Yeah. So for me, looking at it from that particular angle, you will find out in that particular article that, you know, I pointed out a number of issues, okay, which made me make that pronouncement. That is exactly how I saw things. And here we are today. We are talking about the PF in opposition. Why? Because the people of Zambia, okay, heard our clarion call as the UPND. They heard what we told them about what was happening to them. Men did not know what had stung them. People were wondering what had happened to the country. But for us in the UPND, we took it upon ourselves to do what? To sensitize them. And they bought into our messages. As we saw how they came out in numbers, and the victory was delivered. Of course, not for the UPND, but for the people of Zambia themselves. As I always said, the UPND had offered itself just as a vehicle through which the people of Zambia were going to deliver the freedom for themselves. Okay? So for us, it is not about us. It is about the people of Zambia. And I think President HH has put it very clearly to say, anyone who is going to serve under his government, we should be ready to do what? To sacrifice, because our coming into office is anchored on service and nothing else.
Okay. Now, coming to the topic of discussion for tonight, the new dawn.
Wow.
We have heard His Excellency President Hakainde Hichilema saying it's a new dawn. What really is the UPND trying to communicate to the Zambian voters out there, to the Zambian masses out there that turned out in numbers to give them a vote, particularly the youth, the young people? What is the UPND trying to communicate when they say the new dawn?
Well, Tapelo, I've heard a lot of statements, some given by people that are, you know, experienced politicians, you know, that are trying to maybe mislead the public about what this new dawn we as the UPND are talking about is all about, okay? As you may know, maybe from the grammatical point of view, okay, the people of Zambia out there know what the dawn is, what a dawn is. What is dawn? Dawn is simply early in the morning, okay, almost at the time of what? Of sunbreak, just before the sun, yeah, breaks the skies, okay? That is dawn. So when we talk about the new dawn, we are simply telling the people of Zambia to say, you have started, you know, seeing the glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel, okay? Why? Because in the previous regime, when you as a Zambian try to imagine another 5 years under the patriotic front, you could not see anything but darkness. Doom awaited the people of Zambia. If we had made that mistake on 12th August to vote back the PF into government. So for us, we are saying a new dawn. Meaning that, yes, the people of Zambia may not have seen like the sun in its totality, but then it is beginning, okay, to be daylight. We are in the early morning of the UPND government, okay? So when we say the new dawn, the people can start expecting to see those indicators, okay, of daylight, being almost at hand.
Okay.
And when we talk about those indicators, we have got a lot of indicators that the people of Zambia, even today, can point to say, indeed, we are on the right track.
Okay.
I'll give you, yes.
Talking about you being on the right track and this being a new dawn, does it mean that we are going to see a total end to lawlessness, a total end to cadreism, a total end to thuggery and looting of public resources?
Well, Tapelo, this is exactly what I was trying to, drive at. When we're talking about the new dawn, okay, the people of Zambia, to begin with, there are only a few things that they were complaining about, which they were asking the Patriotic Front in government to address. Unfortunately, for reasons best known to themselves, which we can only also speculate, the Patriotic Front did not see it necessary that they hit to the, to the demands, or rather the call from many Zambians, from different walks of life. The people of Zambia were complaining about cadreism in this country, okay, which of course had reached unprecedented levels. Cadreism went hand in hand with lawlessness, okay. Now, for something that the Patriotic Front failed to handle in the 10 years that they were in power, President HH managed to handle this issue of cadreism within 10 hours of having been pronounced as the president-elect. If you didn't make that calculation, you will realize that he was pronounced president-elect around 02, okay, on a Monday. 10 days later, or 10 hours later, rather, he was making that pronouncement to say there shall be no more what? Cadreism. From that day of that pronouncement, you will tell me if you have heard anywhere where cadres have caused havoc, okay, which had become like the order of the day throughout the 10 years that the Patriotic Front was in power. So for us, already, that is a dawn. The people of Zambia can start to see something that had troubled them, something that had become a very, very, very big problem for the people of Zambia, a malady, okay, for 10 years, at least abating within the 10 hours that President Hakainde Hichilema, had been pronounced as president-elect. For us, that is the dawn that we're talking about, okay? Within the few days of President Hakainde Hichilema being elected as president-elect of this country, Tapelo, you agree with me that we started seeing some movements on the part of the law enforcement agencies in this country, namely the DAC, okay? We talk about the Attorney General's office, we talk about the SCC. We saw these institutions beginning to have a semblance of what the people of Zambia...
Now, Mr. Tsanga, is it not a shame to the Zambian public out there and the viewers watching us that it could only take these institutions of governance to begin to bite after the PF had left office?
Well, this is a direct indictment, okay, on the previous regime, the Patriotic Front. It speaks to just how much the Patriotic Front in government interfered in the operations of these important institutions of governance, okay? Left alone, or immediately after these institutions learned that we had another president in waiting who would be sworn in within a few days, they started acting in the way that the people of Zambia had been expecting them to act all along. So, who shall we point a finger at? Is it these men and women that were failing to discharge their mandate? Or indeed there was an invisible hand? Remember, Tapelo, I have been on this podium here to talk about one particular person who wielded that power to end all these vices within the click of a finger. And I was always pointing to President Edgar Lungu. I did not shy away from doing that. Why? Because I knew that in the presidency, there was that power. Yes, the president of this country, as like we have always complained, has so much powers. But then, for all the powers that he has, I know, and the people of Zambia out there know, to say, if only morality can take precedence over other things in the president's heart, he can use those powers to do what? To uplift this country to greater heights. So these institutions could not operate freely. We saw cases, okay? We saw these big names being called to the ACC for interviews. But then, it was shocking to see how these cases ended. They ended in very, very fun acquittals and whatnot. But then seeing these institutions revisiting these issues simply tells the people of Zambia to say they have had unfinished business with these people, save for the fact that these people have been shielded by a greater power, and that is no other than the appointing authority of these particular institutions. So, from the time President HH was pronounced, these institutions realized to say now a man who stands for the law and the constitution of this country was coming into power, and he would definitely want them to discharge their duties without what? Without interference.
Can we then conclude, can you then assure the Zambian public out there and the viewers watching us that in the UPND government there will be no political interference in independent institutions of governance?
Well, according to what the president has assured the people of Zambia, it is not even me as Chisanga who has to maybe assure the people of Zambia. Okay, this assurance has come from the head of state himself. He has on several forums unequivocally, okay, stated that the people of Zambia, okay, including the institutions in this country, are going to operate according to the mandate that is given them by the constitution. So it's not about me, but the president, who has said he is going to put his foot down. You've heard about the issues of corruption, how the president has come out so clearly to say his approach will be no tolerance to what? To corruption. So we are in the new dawn. When we talk about the new dawn, for those people that are busy prodding us to say, no, the president made these pronouncements and whatnot, one thing I want to tell the people of Zambia out there is, even when you talk about these pronouncements that the president made, we should realize that they are in three categories.
Okay.
There are those that are in the shortest term, like the issue of making a pronouncement to say, no more cadarism, just by his word. Okay? Without sounding like I'm talking about the way God created this world. Okay? Just by his word, the president said, there shall be no more cadres at intercity and in marketplaces. Okay? That is in the short term. In the medium term, there are other goals that are going to be achieved. And so is in the longest terms. Okay? So we have these categories. So what I want to ask the people of Zambia out there is to give the president some room to operate. Okay? This is a man who hasn't even put his cabinet in place. But then the demands that I'm hearing from some of the opposition leaders, okay, including the Patriotic Front themselves, okay, are that already they want to hold him accountable to the pronouncements that he made, okay, a day after being sworn in. And when you look at the things that they're talking about...
Maybe this is a reflection from the expectations that the Zambian people have towards President Hakainde Hichilema.
That's granted. The people of Zambia can expect President Hakainde to deliver, and he shall. Okay? He will deliver. Except, I'm asking the people out there to manage. Let us manage our expectations. We may end up getting disappointed where it is not necessary. Okay? Because all these deliverables, you heard President HH talking about, his working culture as that one based on deliverables. All these deliverables can be categorized in three: short, medium, and long term. So I heard someone saying, does it mean that now President HH has been sworn into power, I can chew my school fees because he promised free education. Okay? So those are the things that I want us to manage. Let us manage our expectations. Let us look at the things that someone can do in the shortest period of time, like pronouncements, okay? Like making these institutions free, because it is entirely upon the head of state himself. He doesn't need other people. He is the most powerful man in this country. President HH is the most powerful man in this country today. So it is upon himself to make necessary pronouncements, okay, at an appropriate time. So when he makes those pronouncements, it shall happen. But then there are other deliverables, which the president is going to depend on other people. Very soon, we are going to be hearing President HH, telling the nation, unveiling his cabinet to the nation.
Okay.
But then, among the people that he's going to choose to help him do what? Achieve the things that he has promised the people of Zambia. Okay? There are people that will, in a way, sort of sabotage his vision for Zambia.
I'm coming to that. Let me find out. There is an old adage out there that says politics is a dirty game. Talking about President Hakainde Hichilema putting in a cabinet, do we expect people that mean business, or we are looking at people, like you are putting it, that there are some people that might sabotage his vision? Are we looking at people with clean records, people who have no spots of being green or blue? Are we looking at genuine, competent people who are going to handle these ministries and take these ministries as business as usual, or take it that politics is a dirty game and begin to get kickbacks, shoddy deals? Are we expecting that?
Thank you, Tapelo. But then before I come to attempt to answer that question, I just want to remind you on a lighter note.
Please.
Did you know that upon, Zambia being on the new dawn, on the brink of a new government, some prison gates opened? Are you aware?
I am aware, Mr.
Okay,
Sir.
you are aware? Okay, so these are some of the things. Okay, these are some of the things that the people of Zambia can count as indeed, telling of the new dawn. Look at the exchange rate today. I know different economists have come to give different explanations, but there is one thing. Whether it is by coincidence or indeed it is just what it is, President HH made a pronouncement not too long ago, okay, in a video clip that almost went viral on social media, okay, which almost turned into a meme, to say, I'm sewing at 10 hours, see the rate dropping by what time? By 2 o'clock, okay. For me, I say he even underestimated, because as we were just drawing closer to the election, we saw the dollar giving up on its own. Why? Because market sentiments had already set in. The writing was on the wall that the new government was loading. Okay? For me, I foresaw this, and I knew whatever was happening. I can try to explain this using probably maybe my economic knowledge. But then, I don't think it goes far away from the issue of market sentiments, which President HH alluded, because there are no fundamentals on the ground that have changed, apart from the fact that Zambia has changed from the PF to the UPND regime, to have brought about this kind of a situation of the dollar. Now, coming to the question that you asked, in a few days, I know Zambia awaits President HH's revelation of his new cabinet. Okay? In a few days, President HH is going to unveil his cabinet, because he is in a hurry to hit the road running and begin to see these deliverables that have been assured to the people of Zambia, come into fruition. Okay? But then, what I want to make mention of is the fact that, this is not an easy task for President HH. Why is it not an easy task? For the first time in the history of Zambia, President HH has decided to use the model that President Kenneth Kaunda used in 1964, the time he was putting in place his cabinet. That is, of balancing his cabinet in a manner that it shall represent every region of this country. Okay? That is not easy. Okay? That is just one of the aspects. So he needs to do a lot of balancing 1, region. 2, gender. 3, competence. Okay. 4, we're in an alliance. Okay. He also needs to balance to make sure that some members of the alliance, or maybe all the members of the alliance, in a way are represented. Okay. This is not an easy act of balancing that probably we can say he will just do it, you know, with much ease. No. So there are a lot of things to consider. However, the people of Zambia there, out there, can expect that the time President HH is going to unveil his cabinet, it is going to be a balanced cabinet in every aspect of the word, because this is the man who has been so big on the issue of balancing his cabinet. Okay? Yes. Now, even as his cabinet will have been balanced and maybe sent out there to go and perform, I alluded to the fact that, you know, not everyone will be the same. He is the dream carrier, okay? And the rest of us in the UPND are helping this man, who the people of Zambia have given this overwhelming mandate, based on what he has insisted over the years to say he knew the secret to Zambia's success. Among us, the people that are going to help him achieve this dream for Zambia, there is also going to be bad eggs. Okay? Just like in President Lungu's regime. Okay? President Lungu in himself could not have maybe committed all those atrocities against the people of Zambia. Some of them were committed by the people that he entrusted with power, except he did not act according to the way he was supposed to, when he was supposed to curtail, nip these bad vices in the bud. He did not. So for us in the UPND, we are pretty much cognizant of the fact that even among the people that President Hakainde is going to put in his cabinet, there are some who, for one reason or another, failed to perform. Okay? Now, this is now going to be back on him, you know, as the president, because we believe that the back rests at the president, because he is the boss. So it will be upon himself to see who is not performing. Okay? So that he can make necessary amends. So we can expect a cabinet from President HH that is going to help deliver this promise that we, the UPND, has been, you know, given to the people of Zambia out there, you know, upon which the mandate has been given unto us to lead this nation. But then, what I can just ask from the people of Zambia out there is to help us go through the teething stages. In every project, there is always the learning curve. Okay? For the first time in so many years, the people of Zambia are going to see a cabinet that will be predominantly represented by new faces. Okay?
Okay. We hope to see that cabinet, and once the cabinet is set up, we'll be able to scrutinize each member of that cabinet. Let's look at your campaign message as the UPND. You made pronouncements, Bali will fix it, Bali will fix it, but the people of Zambia are on record now to the continent and globally that they are lethal voters. And in case the UPND doesn't perform, the people of Zambia are ready to show you the door. Let's begin to look at some of the things that Bali will fix. The debt situation has become unsustainable, reducing the country's capacity to invest in productive areas of the economy. You do have an economic background. Let's begin to look at this. Looking at the economy of Zambia, how does Bali and his cabinet begin to fix the economy of Zambia?
This is the very reason I said the people of Zambia will have to be a bit patient. Okay? President HH and the UPND are taking over a government that is in deep debt. Okay? Our debt burden is unprecedented in this country. Okay? We are talking about in excess of $12 billion. Okay? Of external debt. It is unsustainable. And Zambia is on record just towards the end of last year, you know, of having failed to do what? You know, to repay, okay, some of the debt that we were supposed to, you know, we failed to honor our debt obligations, okay? So, having taken over this kind of an economy, we know, and the people of Zambia out there know what kind of a responsibility rests on President HH's shoulders, okay? So, for us in the UPND, we know the process begins with actualizing these austerity measures, okay, to begin with. Because the outlook, or rather maybe the expectations from the people of Zambia, or even the lenders out there, has been that, you know, being under the current debt situation that Zambia has been wallowing in, the people out there have expected that Zambia was going to be seen to be serious and taking a serious path of, you know, austerity measures. But what have we seen? More and more extravagance from the patriotic front, you know, in government. Okay, so for us, it begins with, first of all, tightening the leaking hose of the economy, because I mean, we are at a time that every coin is going to matter. How do we tighten? President HH is on record, and I've heard a lot of people out there, you know, making the demand of the very thing that President HH has already promised to say: expect a lean cabinet from the UPND in power. Okay, we're talking about how many ministries do we have? Is it 28? We're talking about maybe 22 ministries. Okay, but then I've heard some demands from the people out there who are saying, no, that is not even going to be enough. Okay, that is not going to be enough. Maybe let him make it 10 or 15. But we are saying, no, these are austerity measures, yes, but then it shouldn't be to the extent of, you know, making government fail to function, because there are just certain things that cannot be done away with. Okay. So from that particular area, we as the party in power, you know, have been so clear on the fact that, you know, these austerity measures should first of all begin with the leadership. We have been in a dispensation whereby they would tell us to tighten our belts, and then you see them, you know, driving around with the sacks of money, okay, which is, you know, very ironical. So when you talk about austerity measures, it should first of all start with those in power, okay. President HH at the same time has also made a pronouncement to say, under his leadership, the people of Zambia should expect a minister to drive a car that is less than a Land Cruiser. Let's talk about a $50,000 saving. If, say, from the $250,000, which can buy a Land Cruiser, he buys the ministers a $200,000 motor vehicle. Already we're talking about a huge saving of $50,000 plus. Okay, so those are the austerity measures that we're talking about, which of course will give confidence even to the lenders out there to say, indeed, Zambia is what? Zambia is trying to deny herself in the bid to do what? To get herself out of the debt that we have been wallowing in. So the zero tolerance to corruption as well is another issue.
Okay, I'm coming to that, because we're going to go step by step looking at this particular speech that was made by the president yesterday, and also when he first made his appearance to the press after being declared winner of the 2021 general election. Now that you've brought it up, let's look at the pronouncement by the president that the UPND has a zero tolerance to corruption, and it will be professional and it won't be vindictive. Elaborate more on that.
Yes, so when you talk about the zero tolerance to corruption, I want to marry it with the pronouncement that the president made at his acceptance speech, which so many people out there misconstrued. Okay, when the president said, we are not going to have a retributive kind of approach, okay, to our political opponents, to the opposition political parties, okay? A lot of people misconstrued that to have meant that whoever has got a debt has been forgiven, or whoever has stolen something, they have been forgiven, okay? When President HH said, I forgive, or we have forgiven, he uses plural, okay? Because he's not alone, he's a family man. So we have forgiven those that did what? Offended us. There are those personal issues. Say, people that personally maligned him, people that personally defamed him, the president can forgive. But then there are these other people who have not offended the president alone, but the people of Zambia as a whole. Okay? The president was very clear when he said, look, in this country we have got sufficient legislation. We have got institutions that are for certain issues. which of course are going to be allowed to do what? To operate freely. And this is what we have seen lately of the SEC, DEC, and other, security agencies. Okay, so when the president said, we have forgiven them, he qualified it by saying there are institutions that are mandated to do what? To take care of those issues. Meaning that it is not going to be political witch hunt. It will be professionally discharged in a way that everyone shall say, indeed, this is fair. Okay? And like how we have seen it being done sometimes to try and suppress your political opponents. I want to state here and now to say it's only cowards, okay, who take that approach. When you look at the mandate that President HH has been given by the people of Zambia, you realize that Zambia is now being governed by a person or a president who has got no one to fear, but the rest of the people of Zambia to be responsible for the mandate, the overwhelming mandate that they have given him. Okay? So, President HH is very clear. When he says zero tolerance to corruption, that shows, the political will on the part of the president not to interfere, okay, with any issue to do with corruption, regardless of who the issue is going to involve. We saw in the previous regime where certain people were shielded from being prosecuted. Sometimes the president coming out in public defending certain wrongdoers, okay, in the process doing what? Scaring those people that are supposed to prosecute those particular cases, because the man who holds the highest office of the land has spoken. And in some cases, we even heard him complaining against the very institutions that he mandated or that he appointed to do what? To prosecute issues of corruption. So that is the equivocal message that President Lungu, was sounding out. So whatever voice he had issued, maybe in the morning to do with his stance against corruption, in the afternoon, he was voicing it over with a different message altogether. So there has been this confusion. But President HH has spoken clearly and unequivocally to say zero tolerance to corruption. If someone is found wanting with any issue to do with corruption, they are on their own. Just like he pronounced to say, if anyone is going to be found being rude or being maybe lawless in the way that we saw the Patriotic Front cadres, okay, in the previous regime, then you're on your own because police will pounce on you. Why? This is a man who has given back the police the mandate, the full mandate that they had been missing for so long. These are people that were going to their places of work but not doing anything. I've been calling them ghost workers. Not in the sense that they have been absent from work, but they have been going there, except they haven't been given the opportunity to do what? To do the job that we're employed to do. So zero tolerance corruption. The people of Zambia are going to see this actualized to the latter. Why? Because the man who is up there as the president of this country today is a man who means his word. Okay? Such that, even when I hear there has been so many reports of people wanting to join the UPND, trying to cross the floors and whatnot, what I'm seeing here is a situation whereby, people are just trying to find shelter to try and shield their,
You can't blame them because we have seen the UPND embracing individuals of questionable character that we saw defecting from the Greens, the Patriotic Front in opposition. They defected to the UPND, and after some time, after they were comfortable in the UPND, they did whatever they wanted to do in the UPND, they went back to the Patriotic Front. So you can't blame the people that are jumping ship and coming to the UPND.
Oh yes, we can't blame them, but then, it is clear, okay? It is clear that, from the situation, yes, some were coming to the UPND when we were still in opposition, okay? But then, you will see people today who, maybe 2-3 hours after the UPND was pronounced winner of the just ended election, decided to jump ship and to come and join the UPND. Of course, we say there are no permanent enemies in politics. But then what we are saying is, when people are coming to the UPND, let them come with clean hands. And then they should also be willing to join the queue from behind. Because the UPND is a party that has existed in the opposition for the past 22 to 23 years, okay? The membership is huge, okay? The membership is huge. In fact, even worse now because the membership entails the entire Zambian populace. We had support from the entire Zambian populace. Except for a few areas where, of course, we didn't perform very well. I can say, by and large, our party was supported nationwide. The UPND is a party, in the longest time that Zambia has been an independent state, the UPND is the party that has, or that represents a national character in terms of its representation. It's across the breadth and width of this country. So when people are coming to the party, or when people want to join the UPND, let them not come because they want to use it as a shelter, because the law is still going to visit them, even when they're in the UPND, okay? Because this law does not exclude members of the UPND. That is why we are also called to be of exemplary character, even as we, call ourselves the party in power, okay? Yes, it is a good thing, but then it comes with a lot of responsibility, because if we have to help the president, achieve the goals that, or the deliverables that he has promised the people of Zambia, we indeed have to help him in every way, every way possible, because this is a man who doesn't believe in corruption. He believes in doing things straight, and straight things shall be done. So, zero tolerance to corruption, it is just what it is.
Okay, moving away from matters and issues that have to do with corruption, let's look at the issues that have to do with education. During your campaigns in the run-up to these elections, and knowing the UPND for having been so for 22 to 23 years in opposition, like you are putting it, the message that you've preached and the message that the president has preached is free education to every Zambian child, making education accessible to every Zambian child. The Zambian public are expectant out there. We have parents whose children were on bursary at the University of Zambia, at different universities in the country, colleges, name them. Their bursaries have been scrapped off. What's the way forward? How is the UPND going to address the issue of every child in Zambia having access to education?
Yeah, I think I've already touched a bit on that when I was talking about some issues that are in the short term, medium, and long term. Okay, so some deliverables cannot, it is impossible to achieve them in the shortest term possible.
Does this include education?
Well, I may not be very categorical about that, but what I just want to, what I've already told the people of Zambia out there, is that these things that President HH has promised the people of Zambia, within his 5-year term, the people of Zambia are going to see them bear fruit. Okay? It may not be tomorrow, but within the course of his tenure, these things are, the people of Zambia are going to see them actualized. Okay? Like I said, President HH has just inherited, or has just taken over a government that has got so many problems financially. So depending on how, deep this damage is, okay, the people of Zambia may have to wait a little longer to see some of these things come to fruition. But like I said, we have already seen the dawn. President HH has already set the tone by, he told us to pull out our scripts, and he told the people of Zambia clearly to say, start what? Ticking. So far, the people of Zambia must have ticked not less than 4 already of his deliverables that he promised the people of Zambia, some of which he delivered even before he came in power. Just by, mere virtue of the situation having been very clear that he was going to be the president of the country, certain things were delivered upon. So, when you talk about education, it is one issue that President HH has been so big on, okay? He has called himself a villager who was brought up in a glass-thatched house in Wengwa. Okay? He says he went to school without shoes. But when you talk about upward mobility, we are talking about how society should be able to improve itself. When he mentions certain things as those, it is not to say every Zambian child should go to school barefooted. He is just talking about how our society has been in the past, or how it was during his time, and where he ended up, in a way to motivate even the young ones that see themselves as being unlucky because they were born to people they call, that is the way to motivate them to say, they may call themselves, but for himself, myself also as Chisanga, I only wore shoes when I was in grade 8. Maybe President HH was lucky enough maybe to have worn the shoes maybe at his, at a later time in his primary education. Some of us even wore shoes when we were in grade 8. So when President HH talks about the issue of education, it is one issue that is very close to his heart. He's very passionate about it because he knows to say everything starts with education. Yes, some people today will say education is not the only key to success, but it is one of those enablers which sets a base for someone to become whether a good entrepreneur, or just a responsible citizen. You need to have some level of education, some level of enlightenment. So when he says free education from grade 1 through to university, that speaks to his, determination as a president to make sure that by the time he's leaving office, these things should have been actualized. So I may not be able to pinpoint at what point exactly in his 5-year tenure, depending on how things turn out to be. I think the president will be informing the nation as we go on. And the people of Zambia will be out there to appraise him, okay? And the UPND as a party in power, as we go on. But the political will itself has been and is always going to be there. So let us wait and see. Education, indeed, the people of Zambia are going to experience free education from grade 1 up to university because it is one of those basic rights. It is a right, by the way, okay? It is a right that every citizen should have. So President HH has been so big on the issue of the rights and, the things that people should access without question. So he has been so big on those issues, so much so that, the people of Zambia can only expect him to live up to his word.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, away from education, let's look at the media. We saw that the media space was shrinking, and we saw some media houses' licenses being revoked. We saw some journalists being intimidated. How is the UPND going to address the issue of the media being independent and being critical to the decisions that the UPND makes as it formulates its cabinet, Mr. Chang?
Tapelo, you agree with me that in his acceptance speech at his residence, President HH took a bit of time, okay, to address the issue of the media. President HH reprimanded ZNBC in the presence of other media houses, okay? This is a media house. ZNBC is a media house which some previous regimes have personalized. But right there, okay, President HH, in the presence of every attendee, President HH told of ZNBC, okay, to be business-minded. In a way, liberalizing it to say, this is not my tool to suppress my opponents. ZNBC should operate as what? As a business entity. Accept everyone's what? Advent. Accept everyone's request for an interview. Because by so doing, you are going to make money for yourselves as well. To make this organization self-sustaining. We have seen a situation in this country where a lot of organizations have been hemorrhagic to a point of being moribund and sucking government, okay, of the little resources, okay. I can speak of the council, for instance. You know that council workers went for a long time without getting paid in this country. When the council, just recently, okay, upon hearing to say President HH had declared intercity bus terminus as a no-go area for cadres, the council even declared to say, in fact, from this bus station, the council can make or has been making, all things being equal, the council should have been making 2 million kwacha per month. That is a huge amount of money, okay? So all these issues speak to President HH's way of wanting to govern this country. President HH wants to run Zambia as a business entity, whose every other institution that feeds into the main institution should be a profitable entity. And by so doing, we expect that even when you talk about the media, ZNBC is going to operate just the way you people here at KBN operate. You accept, or they will accept everyone who requests for an interview. and they will attend all functions. There will be no opposition. So ZNBC is going to operate as if it's a private broadcaster. It belongs to the government, of course. But then if something is GRZ, it does not belong to anyone else but the people of Zambia, which includes other media houses like yourselves. ZNBC is going to be yours as well because you are a Zambian. Okay? So GRZ owned institutions and parastatals belong to the people of Zambia. So for a president who has indeed set the tone to say these media houses don't have to be stifled, allow them to operate freely, the people of Zambia there can judge for themselves what route is taking in as far as media freedom is concerned. We in the UPND realize to say, no matter how good our policies may be, we need the fourth estate of this state, which is the media, to do what? To be able to disseminate the information. Otherwise, even the messages that we are propagating for the UPND to ask the people out there to vote for us wouldn't have reached them without yourselves. So you can see how huge a role, you play, in as far as the governance of this country is concerned. So the fourth estate of the state, which is the media, needs to be a formidable force to reckon with, which will give positive, checks and balances to the other three wings of the government, namely the legislature, the executive, and, and parliament. So you, the media, have the responsibility. And he has also challenged you to make yourselves relevant, okay? Because the people of Zambia have got high expectations. Whenever you report, give correct report in order for the people to do what? To have informed, to make informed decisions, okay? Without fear or favor. He has taught ZNBC to operate without any fear or favor, meaning that if the president has done something wrong, ZNBC should be able to point out at the president, give him that kind of a challenge so that he can be, better in that area where he could have, made a mistake. So the media under the UPND is going to be just what President HH has said it should be. That is the fourth estate of the state, which will be respected and allowed to operate freely.
Okay.
We are going to see very soon. You hear about these issues of the access to information bills and whatnot being brought to Parliament, and being, passed as law in order for what? The media even to be comfortable. But even before that bill is brought to Parliament, I can assure you to say the media is going to be free to operate under the UPND-led government because it is a government that has the mandate, the full mandate of the people, and we have got nothing to fear.
Okay. Now, moving on, let's look at why the events that characterized yesterday. And we saw that the Commonwealth representative, Patricia Scotland, said things in Zambia had deteriorated that many feared it would take a miracle for change to come. Do you share the same sentiment, Mr. Tsang?
Before I come to that appeal, allow me to thank the people of Zambia out there for the overwhelming support that I witnessed personally at the stadium, at the Hero Stadium yesterday, okay? Thinking to myself, I said, wow. When you look at the number of people that voted for the UPND, the support that we got throughout the country, that crowd that I saw there, at a 60,000 capacity stadium, Hero Stadium, filled to the brim, is just representative of the 1 million vote by which we beat the Patriotic Front. Okay? The people of Zambia have given the UPND government a very huge challenge. And President HH, a big challenge that, indeed, the trust that the people of Zambia have given us, we have to work in such a way that we do not disappoint them. Okay? Yes, Madam Scotland was just one of those guests that came. We had about 10 heads of state that came to witness this momentous occasion at Hero Stadium. It is unprecedented in the country called Zambia because though I was not there in 1964, I want to believe to say, at a time when the population of Zambia was just slightly over 3 million, the people that attended that independence celebration on the 24th of October was way, the number of people was way, below the number of people that we saw yesterday. Okay? So that spoke to the extent of the mandate that has been given to the Republican president, President HH. We saw representative from the United States, that is from the World Bank, from the IMF. It is unprecedented. When you talk about market sentiments, let me just maybe try to delve a bit there to say, all those are the things that we're talking about, okay? The world out there, President HH and the UPND's victory has sent ripples, okay, to the east, to the west, to the south, and to the north, even across, the oceans, to the rest of the world, okay? And people wanted to see, to see this particular person who is leading this particular political party, who could have beaten a ruling party, a sitting government, by that kind of a margin, okay? So this is a huge challenge that sits on President HH's shoulders, okay? We heard the speeches that came from 3/4 of those people that came to do what, to witness the inauguration of President HH. It was so humbling, especially for us that have been in President HH's campaign team. It was so humbling because at the time that we were campaigning, yes, some of us like myself, okay, throughout the period that we were campaigning, I was so sure that we were going to beat the PF, but then not by that margin. It way surpassed our expectation. When you talk about Madam Scotland's speech, it was so touching, okay? She used a lot of humor. She's a wise woman. She used a lot of humor. She said, President HH is the winner of the election. And President Lungu, a winner of what? People's hearts. For what? Because he allowed the smooth transition of power.
As it should be.
As it should be. That is where I was coming to. President Lungu, as a Christian that he has shown us to be, had no choice but to do just what he did. Okay? Doing otherwise would have meant something else. It was so overwhelming. Okay? The defeat was so overwhelming that, even in the 7 days that, we waited for the inauguration of President HH, not a single individual, went to challenge the results because it was so convincing. It was a whitewash. So for President Lungu to do that, he just did what he was supposed to do. Otherwise, it was so clear. She was so clear, even when she delivered the speech, that is Madam Scotland, to say, indeed, this is a good thing that we have seen in Zambia. But she didn't mince her words when she said the situation in Zambia was what? Deteriorating. She was very clear. What did she mean? She meant the very vices that some of which have been, have just dropped off, okay, by themselves, just by the mere pronouncement of President HH as a president. Cadarism, corruption, and other vices. If we had continued on the patriotic front path, what Mrs. Scotland meant there was this country was headed for doom. Doomsday awaited Zambia. But we thank God. The people of Zambia can tolerate something, but just for a season. In no time, they will act to do what? To vindicate themselves. So, this is a lesson. Even to us, as the UPND government in power, okay? Even the people that President HH is going to do what? To appoint to serve in various government positions. It's a lesson to say we are not supposed to take the people that we govern for granted. You may have been given this power, but just in the same manner that the power has been given by the people, they can also take it away from you. If you were there, Tapelo, you should have seen the lonely figure that President Lungu cut the time he was leaving the Heroes Stadium. Okay? And more embarrassing than that was the booing. It was uncalled for, I can say. But then when you think about it, again, the people of Zambia had no choice because after seeing the person they considered to have suppressed them for so long, that was the minimum reaction they could show him to say they were not happy. As you know, to say when someone ascends to that throne, it is rare that anyone will have access. It is so difficult that people have access to speak to him directly. So that is the only opportunity they had to revenge. Of course, revenge is ungodly. But let us accept to say we are human beings. Sometimes we are forced to revenge. So for Madam Scotland's speech, it is a lesson to the UPND and other governments to come to say, indeed, when you are given a mandate to govern the people, do your best. I know to say there is no government that is going to perform 100%. And this is not what we challenged the PF to do. No. But what we said, and what I always said personally was, there should be less things for people to complain than there are for them to do what? To be happy about. We shall make mistakes. The UPND government is going to make mistakes. Okay? But then the people of Zambia are going to judge us, you know, by the comparison between the mistakes that we are going to make and the things that we are going to do right. In a normal society, not in utopia, just a normal society, the number of things that we are going to do correctly should be more than those that we are going to do wrongly. At least the people can have hope to say, with time, we are going to do what? We are going to catch up. So we are human. President HH is human. He can make a pronouncement today. But there are other things that are going to, you know, in a way, compromise his stance on certain things, because he's going to be working with individuals who are human beings, who could probably not be sharing his dream. So we are in a situation whereby the lesson that we have learned from the PF, for us who have witnessed this, we are fortunate because we have got an opportunity to do things differently.
Okay. As we begin to conclude our program, Mr. Tsanga, let me find out from you. The UPND has been ushered into government, and it has been given a mandate by the Zambian people that overwhelmingly turned out in numbers to vote for them. Moving forward, like you are calling it, and like what the president in his speech called it, the new dawn. In conclusion, the viewers are watching out there, they are expectant. Unemployed youths are watching out there, they are expectant. These are the people that gave you the 1 million votes as the UPND. Students are watching, they want jobs. Grade 12s that have just graduated from high school are watching, they want to go to college. The mines are closed, they don't have any source of income coming from their parents. They are looking towards the UPND for hope and salvation, if you like. As the UPND, how are you going to manage these expectations from these young people, these women, the differently abled, and the majority Zambians that voted for you, Mr. Tsanga, in conclusion?
Well, that is a very huge question that we cannot handle in conclusion, you know. You've just brought up an issue that is so multi-sectorial, okay? And when you talk about joblessness, okay, it is one of the biggest problems that we have in this country, okay? And a lot of people have been asking questions to say, now, how is the UPND, seeing that they have removed the people for, the cadres from intercity, how is President HH and his UPND party going to take care of these people who have been, of course, earning their living from those bus stops, okay? If you look at the UPND manifesto, okay, you realize that, you know, there are a lot of sectors in this country which have been dormant.
Okay.
When you talk about I'll give you a typical example, just the agricultural sector itself, okay? The uptake of these youths and the jobless people out there into this gainful employment, you know, is going to be dependent on how creative the government is going to be. You realize that, you know, agriculture is one of the stay wires of the Zambian economy. And when you look at agriculture itself, the way I've been doing it is cultivate, wait for the maize crop, especially maize, to be harvested, and then we are selling the maize, okay? If you talk about soybeans, cultivate, wait for the soybeans to be ready, then we do what? We sell the soybeans like that, okay? But then the UPND government, for example, has talked about how it is going to make sure that it practices forward and backward linkaging of these agricultural programs, okay? Value addition, for example. When you look at the agriculture sector itself, what we've been saying is there are a lot of things that we import from outside the borders of this country, which if we manage to do what? To process within this country, the uptake of these youths from unemployment into these gainful jobs is going to be something that is going to alleviate a lot of suffering in this country. So by diversifying these particular sectors, like agriculture itself, whereby, you know, there will be other intermediate processes that are going to employ a number of people. There are people that cannot go to the field to go and plant because they don't have a field. But at least they can go to a plant that, say, for instance, makes milime, that makes conflicts. I'm just giving that as a typical example. So at the end of the day, the youths that are complaining of unemployment, like I already said, let us just practice a bit of patience. Okay? The UPND in power, unlike President Mumba, okay, in one of his messages that I was listening to this morning, said he expects the UPND government to do very well because we are just coming from opposition or from an opposition where it has been so difficult to exist, where, you know, the levels of unemployment, you know, have been unprecedented in this country. He expects this particular party, the UPND, to perform better. Indeed, we have learned a lot of lessons from the opposition, and we know the problems that affect the people of Zambia. So for us, it is just that particular, you know, little time that we are going to ask the people of Zambia to give us in order for us to position ourselves, you know, to brace ourselves. Already we are, but to position ourselves in a way that is going to do what? Make us deliver on a lot of these promises that we have assured the people of Zambia out there. I can give an example, you know, of certain things that probably the PF had an opportunity to alleviate this suffering, especially with the youths. Certain programs that the PF carried out. What we are saying is not everything that the PF did was bad. And of all those things that they did that were not bad, we as the UPND are not going to reinvent the wheel by doing them differently. We are going to do the same things, maybe in just slightly different manner, where we see the PF to have erred and make sure that we score success. There was the issue of high capacity. There was an issue of COVID-19 youth empowerment. You know, Tapelo, you are a journalist, you know how many people were empowered. If you ask today, there was one youth who was given 800,000, another who was given 300,000. Ask today, because that was said to have been a revolving fund. How many people have benefited from that kind of a fund? There is none. If you ask even the very people who received that money from the PF, you know, from the government, to do what, to better their business or to be able to restart their business after the ravaging COVID-19, you will realize some of them have already gone broke. So where has the problem been? Zambia has got enough resources to make sure that, you know, the youth in this country are empowered, and empowered genuinely. For me, what I've argued is that empowerment, physical empowerment without empowering the mind, is as good as zero. So for us in the UPND, we are looking at empowering youths to begin with, empowering their minds to understand business. The people of Zambia should understand that the man who is at State House today, President HH, has been a businessman for the longest time in his life. So this is a man who knows how to inculcate business, the business acumen in a lot of these people who may want to do business, but because they do not know how it should be done. For us in the UPND, we believe in imparting knowledge in the youths, even before we give them the money. If you give them the money before imparting knowledge in them, you are like giving them a rope to go and hang themselves. Some of them will just go and drink that money. In the process, even end up destroying their lives, you know, to an extent that you cannot retrieve it. So for us in the UPND, we know these programs can be undertaken by the government. Empowerment can be undertaken but in a way that we are going to make follow-ups to make sure that it works to the advantage of every Zambian. Yes, the majority of the people that voted for us in the UPND are youths, and these are people that are looking up to us, and we are equal to the challenge, Tapelo. We are equal to the challenge. To the challenge. Why? Because this is something we have been, you know, preaching during our campaigns. We have been promising the youths this and that. So let us wait. Let us give the UPND government a bit of time. Let them settle in their. Let President HH settle in his seat. Though I know he's already settled because this is a man who has been governing from opposition. So for us, we know to say when we do these projects, when we do these programs, we need to do them in such a way that they shouldn't just end in disbursement. We should be able to collect and be able to really make this fund revolving, as it is called. So, the people of Zambia, the youths of Zambia out there, you can only look forward to a different life under the UPND. The new dawn is here, and it is here in earnest. We promised, and we are equal to the task to deliver. President HH is not working in isolation. He's working, he's very consultative president. He wants to get to the grassroots, find out what exactly the problems are that are facing the youths. This information, President HH collected it from all the corners of this country. He knows. But then, apart from that, he has got members of parliament that are representative of every province in this country. When they sit together in that cabinet, You will see what is going to come up. But maybe before you cut me short, I want to advise, okay, the opposition out there, especially the Patriotic Front, that I've seen to be so quick, okay, so quick to want to wind up. It's interesting to learn that today, it's encouraging to learn that today Mr. Lubinda has been appointed as the Vice President of the Patriotic Front. What we are saying is we need opposition. We as the UPND, of course, I know we have the majority in Parliament, okay, but then we need majority because we believe in checks and balances. We are not going to work in isolation like, you know, in a one-part state. No.
Okay, so on that score, Mr. Tsanga, I would like to thank you for making an appearance on the big hour tonight.
Thank you so much, Tapelo, and continue engaging us even as we embark on this journey.
Even as you transition to the ruling party.
We have already transitioned. We have already done so. So continue engaging us because, yeah, we know that it's just by those checks and balances that you will be able to sharpen us. Okay, so the media, just like the opposition, and the civil society organizations should be here to sharpen the ruling party. Okay.
Which is the UPND.
But then we want positive, positive what? Engagement.
Okay.
Like President Hagande put it, we are not going to restrict or maybe narrow the political field. Okay. It will be there for everyone to practice their politics. But the only challenge that he threw onto the opposition is that we are going to raise the standards. So it is just the standards that is going to crowd out those political parties and armchair politicians who are there to do what? Criticize, criticize, and criticize just for the sake of it. We are here to change this country into the Zambia that, in fact, we don't just want, but we need.
Okay, so I know, knowing you, you won't stop talking. Thank you so much for coming, Mr.
Thank you, Tapelo, and it will always be a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. There you have it, viewers. Thank you so much for having kept us company on the big hour. And we thank you so much that you could allow us to come into your homes and be of company to you. For those that were watching via the Topside Decoder channel 102, we do appreciate your company. Those that were watching or following via our Facebook page, thank you so much. Remember, tomorrow we are launching KBN on the DSTV platform. Stay glued, stay tuned to the finest television. I have been your host, Tapelo Joe Smata is my name. Until next time, it's bye-bye and God bless.